The Fastplant, also known as a footplant, is a trick that's just about as old as BMX itself. And over the past 30, 40 years, that trick's gone in and out of style both in BMX and mountain biking. And today it seems pretty popular in both. I have no idea who the first person was to do a Fastplant on either a BMX bike or a mountain bike, but I can tell you the first time I remember seeing somebody do it on a mountain bike, and that was Brandon Semenuk. He did it in a slope style event. He did a Fastplant 360 off of a drop, and it was dope. I had seen guys do that on BMX bikes for years, but I'd never seen someone do that on a mountain bike, and that inspired me to go ahead and learn that on my own mountain bike. And today, I'm gonna teach you how to do that yourself. I'm gonna go ahead and start off by talking about the basic fundamental skills of how to do a Fastplant, as well as briefly touch on the two different ways that you can do a Fastplant. From there, I'm gonna talk about bike choice and bike setup and what's gonna make it easier to learn a Fastplant on. And then finally, I'll share some ideas of ways that you can progress this trick and take it into different places and use it to show off to your friends and just make your general mountain biking a little bit more fun. So starting things off with the technique, and like I said, there's kind of two ways that you can do a Fastplant. You've probably seen both of them. The first is when a rider's riding up to do their jump or do their Fastplant, and before they get there, they take their foot off and they ride along one-footed and then plant that foot down and jump off of it. Personally, I don't think that looks as good, and as we'll talk about at the end of the video, it does limit some of the ways that you can kind of take the Fastplant and apply it to different types of terrain. So the way I'm going to teach you today is when you're riding along, and then as you go to pull up, as you go off your jump or to bunny hop or whatever, you pull up and Fastplant in that single motion. And this is going to look and feel a lot like looping out. So if you've ever practiced learning manuals or wheelies and you've gotten comfortable looping out on the bike, that's kind of what you're gonna do when you Fastplant. But instead of taking both of your feet off like I just did, you're just gonna take one foot off and you're gonna plant that foot on the ground and you're gonna jump off of it. If that sounds hard right now, don't worry, because learning it on flat ground is actually not the easiest way to learn a Fastplant. The easiest place to learn it is on a steep bank or a mellow quarter pipe. So this one behind me would work pretty well here. I went ahead and did it on a steeper bank at the skate park earlier today, but even if you just got like a steep grass hill by you, or maybe the landing of a dirt jump at your local spot, would all work great to go ahead and start learning the Fastplant. When doing a Fastplant, your body is naturally gonna wanna rotate towards that foot that you're taking off. And so the way that I suggest doing a Fastplant at first is utilizing that rotation on that steep bank to kind of do a 180-degree turn. You're not gonna do a full 180, but to kind of go up that bank, Fastplant, and come back down it. That's gonna be the easiest place to learn this on. So it'll essentially look like this. You're gonna ride up into that bank at a moderate speed, slow to moderate speed, and right as you near the crest of that bank, you're gonna loop out your bike, you're gonna take off your foot. Doesn't matter which foot you take off. I personally take off my front foot, but I've seen plenty of riders who take off their back foot and that works fine too. And you're gonna slam that foot into the ground. As you do that, you're gonna take your handlebars and pull them up towards your chest. This is especially important on mountain bikes with 27.5 or 29-inch wheels. On a BMX bike, you don't need to worry about that too much because your leg sticks out and your bike's kind of small, so it's already off the ground. But if you don't take your handlebars and pull them up, and if you want to make it look really stylish, you can kind of pull them up into a table. If you don't do that, then your wheels are going to touch the ground and it's going to be super sloppy and awkward. From there, all you have to do is spot your landing, spot your foot back on your pedal, and land and ride away. Oftentimes when I'm doing Fastplants, I actually don't get the foot that I'm taking off back on the pedal until my tires have already hit the ground. And while that might not be the cleanest or best looking way to do it, in most cases it doesn't really matter because most of the time you're not doing a Fastplant from super high off the ground. You're usually just a few inches off the ground, essentially however far your leg has been able to lift the bike up. That said, if you're someone like Brage or Semenuk who does Fastplants off of big drops, then make sure you get your foot back on the pedal before you hit the ground again. Once you've mastered the Fastplant on that steep bank or quarter pipe, there's a few other places that you can take it to. Probably the next easiest would be to do it over a hip, and now instead of turning 180 degrees, you're gonna get a little bit of forward momentum with it. So you're gonna wanna Fastplant at the top of that lip, and then kind of push yourself forward with your foot as you turn slightly to land on that hip. If you don't have a hip available to you, that's just fine. You can also do a Fastplant just straight out of that bank. Again, you wouldn't want to do it out of something super steep like a quarter pipe, but a steep bank, grass hill, something like that. You'll plant that foot on the ground and kind of use your pushing off of that foot to generate forward momentum and hop up into the air. Once you feel comfortable doing fast plants both inside a bank as well as flying out of the bank or over a hip, then you can start working on fast plants on flat ground. And again, this is quite a bit harder because you have to generate all the force to get your bike up at that angle and pull it up instead of using the ramp to help you do that. That said, the technique is the exact same. You're just gonna yank up on the front end of the bike, loop out until your foot comes off the end, smack it down on the ground. Be sure to lift your bike up in the air so that your wheels get off the ground, and just like that, you've done a fast plant. And once you can do a fast plant on flat ground, you can pretty much do the trick anywhere you want to. So if you're on a trail ride and there's a cool feature off to the side, you wanna get super steezy and do a fast plant on it and impress all your friends, you can absolutely do that. And we're gonna talk here in a second about different ways that you can kind of progress and advance this trick. But first, I wanna talk a little bit about bike setup and the things that are gonna be important for you if you want to learn a fast plant on your trail bike. I first learned fast plants on a BMX bike, and that's definitely the easiest way to learn it. A couple things. For one, the tire size. Like I mentioned earlier, the bigger your wheels are, the harder you have to kind of pull the bike up off the ground to make sure that when you stick your foot on the ground, those wheels are actually going to be coming up off the ground as well, and you're not just dragging your foot along the ground for no reason. Another thing that makes a BMX bike easier is that it's a lot easier to get the front end off the ground and to do that kind of loop out motion. And that's for a couple reasons. The shorter chain stays, the higher bottom bracket, things like that make it easier to kind of get that front end up on a BMX bike or potentially a dirt jumper too. So if you have a BMX bike or a dirt jumper and you want to expedite how quickly you can learn this trick, then I would suggest doing it on one of those. But if all you have is a trail bike, whether it's a hardtail or a full suspension bike, you can definitely still learn this trick and do this trick on that bike. One of the biggest things that will help make it easier to learn on your trail bike is to get your seat as low as possible. If you have a modern bike with a relatively low seat tube, then you should be fine. This RSD middle child that I have here has a seat tube height of I think about 440 millimeters, and that's plenty low enough to be able to kind of put my foot down and pull the bike up without having the seat all up in my crotch. But if you've got an older bike or a cross-country bike with a 500 millimeter seat tube, it's gonna be a lot harder to do a fast plant, and essentially you're gonna be forced to do that kind of cool tabletop move to keep the seat from getting all up in your junk. So maybe it'll help you learn good style with them right off the bat, but it is gonna make it harder to learn. In addition to having a low seat, another thing that's gonna make it a bit easier to learn fast plants is having a higher front end. So putting spacers under your bars or running higher rise handlebars is gonna make it easier to pull that bike up and kind of get your body weight back like you need to instigate the fast plant. Aside from those two things though, there isn't too much that you should need to do on your bike to set it up for fast plants. Whether you've got a single speed like me or you've got a geared bike, all of that should work just fine. So just make sure you get that seat plenty low, and if you have a smaller bike like a dirt jumper or a BMX bike, try that first. I mentioned at the start of the video that I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can progress the fast plant and kind of use it in different situations in your riding. One of the first tricks that I learned out of a fast plant was a fast plant 180. Those are pretty straightforward because like I said earlier in the video, when you do a fast plant, your body naturally wants to rotate towards that foot that you're planting down. So adding that 180-degree spin to it isn't a ton harder. Of course, you're gonna need to learn how to fakie if you wanna do that. In other words, kind of get out of the 180 and start riding forward again. But I've actually made a video on how to fakie that I'll link in here so you can learn that if you're gonna learn some fast plant 180s. Another way you can progress your fast plants is to do them out of manuals. This is again something that I've seen a lot of slopestyle riders do, and Braje Vestovic has a couple really cool clips of him doing like manual to fast plant off of drops. And essentially it's the same thing. You're gonna manual along and you're gonna, as you come to the end of whatever you're manualing off of, kind of loop out a little bit, plant your foot down and jump off your drop. And doing tricks like manuals to fast plants is one of the reasons that I recommend learning it the way that I taught it today, where you do that kind of loop out method to get into the fast plant instead of just riding along with your foot off the pedals, because obviously it's gonna be a lot harder to try to do a one-footed manual to fast plant than it is to just manual along and then again loop out and fast plant. The final way that I want to talk about how you can kind of progress and expand your fast plants is to do them over obstacles on the trail. Let's say there's a log that crosses the trail or a rock over on the side. You can use your flat ground fast plant or bunny hop fast plant to pull up and then bunny hop up and loop out and place your foot on that object and come back down onto the ground. And that's probably one of the most advanced variations of a fast plant. Obviously, you don't want to get your timing wrong and like get your ankle jacked up on the thing that you're trying to fast plant on. I haven't messed with those at all on a mountain bike. I've tried them a little bit on a BMX bike, but it's definitely challenging. Fastplants are super fun, unique tricks that can take your riding to another level when it comes to style and creativity. If you're someone like me who prioritizes making your riding look good and having fun putting tricks in different places, then a Fastplant is definitely something that you should add to your bag of tricks. If you're trying to learn this trick and you're stuck on a certain point and you've got questions for me, please go ahead and put those down there in the comments. I'm also happy to make tutorial videos on any other kind of mountain bike skills or tricks that you guys would like to learn, so if you've got an idea for me, you can put that down there as well. After you've done that, go ahead and grab your bike, head to your local skate park, dirt jumps, or maybe just a big grass bank by your house and practice some Fastplants. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same right now, so hopefully I'll see you out there.